Hi, this is Amanda, Chris's nutrition coach. I help him keep his belly from actually looking like a peach. But first, check this out.
I think if you still focus on doing what you do well, doing it better, and just being different from everything else out there, then I think you can still be very successful.
Alrighty, everyone, this is the Money Peach Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Peach, and I'm going to be bringing on some of the most amazing people I can find so they can tell you how they do their life and their money the right way. Today on the show, I'm bringing on my good friend, Joseph Hogue. Joseph is an amazing online entrepreneur, to say the least. He has 6 different blogs. Some of them he's already sold. He's written 10 different books online. He has an online course, and he's doing some crazy things on YouTube. We're going to talk about all of them. So if you've ever thought about maybe starting a business online, a podcast, a blog, a YouTube channel, doing something online where you can generate income, maybe passively, this is going to be the show for you. So without further ado, let me bring in my good friend, Joseph Hogue. Joseph, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm real excited to have you on because you and I are in a very, very similar space. So I feel like we're going to have a lot of things to talk about today, but you are in the online space. You've been doing online marketing, online business for quite a while now. And I know there's a lot of people listening out there that are either intrigued by this idea or they're getting started, or maybe they've been in the online world for a while and they just want to hear someone else who's been there for a while. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me. It's an honor. I think we're going to have a great talk.
So really cool. One of the coolest things about being in the online business world is you can work from anywhere. So it was kind of funny is I asked you before we hopped on here, I said, you're in the East Coast because I saw in the email, it said Colombia, but where are you at? Where are you actually at?
I am in Colombia, but that's Colombia way south. So Colombia, the country, actually came here in 2006 to do some business consulting around the free trade agreement and loved it, loved the weather, loved the obviously the cost of living. So ended up meeting who would become my wife. And we've been down here since 2013. So about 6 years now.
Okay, so before 2013, let's kind of back up. And I know a little bit of your story, but I think our listeners definitely want to hear it as well. Tell me about, you were in the military, so thank you so much for serving, but kind of what that was like coming out of the military and how you got started in this idea of an online business.
Sure. Well, I think it's a story a lot of people can relate to. I got out of the military and went to college because that's what you do. And I got a job in corporate finance because, that's what you do. And I hated my job. I hated life 8 hours a day plus, but I thought that's just how it was. You work a job maybe you don't like because you need money and you need money to buy things that you do like jet skis or other things that make you happy. And then I started looking at some of these, online businesses. This was 2005, 2006. And really that idea of an online entrepreneur was still getting started and really coming out to more people. And I loved it. I started looking for ways to build an online business and to do some of that consulting work that I could do from anywhere.
So 2005, this is early on in the blogosphere is what I call it. I was at a conference recently and they said there's 400 million blogs, active blogs out there right now, 400 million. 2005, I don't know what the number was. It's still relatively new. I feel like when you're starting 2005 in the blogging world, is it still kind of, are people really believing that you can actually make money online yet?
And when I say that, I didn't even start blogging and freelancing until much later, until about 2011. This period around 2005, 2006. And in there, I was still, looking for the different ideas. I was still very much in that mindset of a traditional job where you worked for someone or, maybe you were a contract worker, but more of a traditional space. So that's when I did go to Colombia and did that free trade consulting. It actually wasn't until 2011 that I started freelancing for bloggers, started looking at creating my own blogs. And by then, you had those stories of, so-and-so sold his blog for $2 million and that kind of thing. So it was becoming a little bit more in vogue and a little bit more, I won't say legitimate because, my mom still asked me if blogging was still really a thing. But it was becoming more mainstream, I would say, by 2011, 2013. But you still do have people, they're still stuck in the mindset, like so many people are, that you need that traditional job, that twice monthly salary and that kind of thing to really make it.
Okay, so my next question is starting a blog. Now, I've talked a lot about on this podcast I started Money Peach in 2015, and I started it in March 2015. In February 2015, I didn't even know what a blog was. So, I mean, to me, 2011 is still, it just seems so early for me. But in 2015, I remember sitting down with a friend, and he was a blogger, and he started telling me about this whole blogosphere, this blogging world, and how he makes money. And it still blew my mind. And this is just a few years ago. But by then, you'd already started a few different blogs, correct?
Yeah, I had started, I had about 4 blogs by then, I guess, all within the personal finance, making money space, online, that kind of thing. Yeah.
So tell me about the first one you started and why you started it.
Actually, the first 2 I started at the same time. One was purefinance101.com and the other one was crowd101.com. And I've since sold off Crowd101. The personal finance one, Pure Finance, really came from my love of personal finance, investing, talking about those things. The crowdfunding one was because, crowdfunding was going to be the next big thing and I wanted in on it. But really the beauty of blogging and being online in the online sphere of business is that you can be flexible like that. I ran Crowd 101 for a few years and made some good money on it, but it never became that huge business that I thought it could be. So I sold it off. And that's something that you can do so easily online is create these new businesses with very little money or risk and then develop them over a few years. And, if they don't pan out, then you sell them and you really move on to the next project. I think it's really a defining characteristic apart from traditional businesses where it might take your life savings to start a traditional business, a retail business or manufacturing or something. So you're kind of committed to either make or break in something like that. And you can't try those other projects.
You make a good point. I have a friend I was just having lunch with recently, and he's starting his business. He's separating it from the family. It's in a machinery business. And so his upfront costs were $750,000 to start this business. And he didn't have $750,000. So he had some rental properties that he leveraged against to get that business up and running. And the crazy thing is I'm hoping he's going to have crazy amounts of success, but there's no guarantee. And the key takeaway there is there's never a guarantee that it's going to work out. I think that's when you start a business in either the traditional space or online space, there's no guarantee. The one thing I like about the online space is you can start a blog for like $100 or less. Realistically, by the time you pay for hosting and WordPress and maybe some graphics or some Canva subscriptions or some other subscriptions out there, some plugins, you're maybe into it for $100 startup, not $100 a month, $100 startup. And if it doesn't go well, you have sweat equity in it and that's it. Or in the traditional space, if it doesn't go well, it's a big mess. And so that was one of the big things I liked in the beginning when I first started looking into this online space is, wow, you really take away a lot of that risk. I mean, obviously, I think you agree with that as well. So kind of transitioning then though, why are blogs valuable? What I'm asking is why are people buying them?
Why are people buying them from the bloggers?
Yeah, like you said, you've sold a couple of your blogs. How are they valuable? I guess somebody who's not in the blogging world is probably thinking, okay, you start a blog, it doesn't go well, then why would somebody want it?
Sure. Well, we live in an information age. They say content is king. And these blogs, even an unsuccessful blog is going to reach thousands of people a month. When I sold my most recent blog that I sold, I was reaching 10,000 people a month and in a very specific topic. So, that's still very valuable to somebody, especially somebody that can fold that into their product or into their marketing. And we get back to that idea that, it costs very little to run a blog. So when you see that reach that they have, and sometimes that community that you can build on them, then it just becomes a very powerful medium to products, to companies, and to other businesses.
Talk to me about some of the other ways online you've generated income. We've talked a lot about the different strategies here in the past on the podcast, but I'm interested in some of the ways that you've generated income through your blog and through other means online.
Okay. And with that, I think it's important to have a rounded approach to making money. If you're going to be making money online, then you need several different strategies or income sources because a lot of these, they take a while to start or they don't really amount to thousands a month. But you put together 4 or 5 of them that fit naturally together, and you can have a very stable and very, very high income. So within the blog, I've used advertising, which is just basically those ad boxes you see. sponsored posts, which is where someone will pay you to post about their product or talk about their service. But one of my favorite really has been self-publishing. And, I know everybody has a book idea in their head. They always think about writing, and self-publishing is so easy. It's so easy for anyone to start. And it's a natural fit for anyone that has a blog. Basically, you're already creating that content. So it takes very little extra to put it together into a book, publish it on Amazon, the largest e-commerce platform in the world, and you're making a couple of $100 a month on each book. I've published 10 books over the last 3 years. I do almost nothing for advertising and marketing beyond just having the links there somewhere on the blogs, and I make under $2,000 a month on those books. That income source, since it's so passive, really gives me the freedom to go after some of these other income sources and develop them, even while maybe they're not providing an income quite yet. So with that extra $2,000 a month, I can relax a little bit. I don't have I don't have to freelance or work on contract so much. I can develop the blogs. I can develop this YouTube channel that I just started this year. I can do a lot of the other income sources.
That's a really good point. I've talked about this, and I have not actually taken that advice yet. We don't have a book, but we started blogging 3 years ago, and I think we have close to 250 posts, maybe in the 300 range on our blog. And like you said, that's so much written information that's out there. People always ask me, well, why would they want to buy it in a book when it's for free on your website? And that was kind of a big thing for me to get around. So what do you say to that when somebody asks that question?
Well, a lot of it is just the convenience and the process to it. If you've written maybe, we'll say 5 posts on a very specific topic, five posts that really bring someone to a transformation that you really want to share with people. Yeah, sure, they could find it, but are they? How easy is it going to be for them to find all 5 posts in an order that they can understand and consume to drive this transformation? Even if you put links in those posts to the other articles, a lot of times it's still going to be very difficult for people to find their way around a blog and to get that information in the order they need it. So a lot of that is really the convenience of having it all together and having that process from the very first piece to the last. And frankly, if you're selling on maybe on Kindle or even paperback through Amazon, usually it's maybe $5 or $10. So it's not necessarily that people are paying for something that they would get for free anyway. It's paying for that convenience in that process and that finished product.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I know that there's books that I've purchased myself on, creating a podcast or creating a blog or a YouTube channel or an online course. And I've read these books, and I know that these books, I can go and find all the information. But the point is, do I have the time? For $5 or $10 for a book, is it worth my time to go surf every single page to make sure I'm on the right page or am I on the wrong? That convenience factor is huge. And I think it's a win-win. It's a win for the reader who is looking for information, but wants it now and doesn't want to have to search for it over and over. And it's a win for the producer or the blogger, because like you said, it wasn't a crazy amount of effort to put that together because you've already done the work on the front end. And, it's a couple $1,000s a month. And it's not just this month, it's every single month, correct?
Yes, every single month, about a little under $2,000 a month every month. I think I spend about $200 a month for all 10 books advertising on Amazon. And that's just enough to keep them ranked and to keep that consistent cash flow every month.
Wow.
It's one of the most passive income sources I've found. It's something I recommend to everyone, especially new bloggers or someone approaching some of those strategies that maybe don't pay off immediately. I make a lot of money off my blogs, but it didn't start that way. It took 6 months to a year to even start seeing checks come in. So self-publishing is a great way to start seeing that income, that motivation, really to stick with some of these other strategies and really develop them out.
I remember, Joe, when I first got started in the blogging world, I remember I was sitting down with a friend who I was at FinCon, the same conference that I think I met you at. And I remember someone asking me, Chris, what would it be like to make $1,000 a month from your blog? This is in the first couple months that I started. And I remember thinking to myself, whoa, like that would blow my mind. I'm a firefighter. So to make $1,000 a month every single month online, it completely blew my mind that was even something that was possible. for me. I knew that it was possible for other people out there, but for me. And I always have to make sure that I stay grounded when when I think like, oh, things aren't going as well as they could have been, this or that. I look back going, do you remember that time when you thought making $1,000 online? So right there, you just said with your book, it's your 10 books. It's something that, somebody who getting started could do in the beginning. And, you have a $20,000 a year passive income. That's incredible. I mean, that's big time. That's incredible to do online. And it's not unreachable for people just getting started.
No, it's absolutely within reach for anyone. Like I said, everyone has a book idea in them. Most people sit there and daydream about writing a book. And if you go to Amazon and you kind of look around, search for ideas, you'll see that everybody has written a book on everything. So there are ways to make money, writing whatever your dream may be. And it's just real fun. It's obviously a way to build that community out as well. I sell upwards of about 600 copies of those 10 books, the 10 total each month. And to think, even beyond the money, to think that I'm reaching 600 people beyond the tens of thousands that go through the blogs and the YouTube channel, really being able to drive that transformation for 600 plus people is a great feeling, a great experience.
Hey guys, I just wanted to pause and take a second to say thank you from me to you for listening to and supporting the Money Peach podcast. Without listeners like you, this show definitely would not be possible, so thank you. The number one question that I receive is this: Peach, I just don't know where to start when it comes to my money. So many of us out there are living paycheck to paycheck. We have tons of debt. We're not making any headway. We can't save any money. We want to go on a freaking vacation where we pay cash for it. Oh, and let's talk about retirement savings and kids' college planning on top of that, right? Where do you start? Well, that's why we created the cash flow formula. The cash flow formula is the same system that Andrea and I used to pay off $52,000 in debt in only 7 months. And the best part is it's 100% free, meaning we are going to send you the free tools and a free lesson on how to set up your own cash flow formula. So to get started, go over to getcashflowformula.com. That's GET cashflowformula.com. Once again, head on over to getcashflowformula.com to get your free copy and your free lesson on how to get started the right way. All right, guys, now back to the show. Okay, so you have 6 blogs, you've sold a few now, you have the 10 books written. Tell me about, you also got into the world, and that's what we do as well, is you have an online course. And I'm a huge fan of online courses because I think you get to directly impact people at a very high level in these courses because people love watching video courses and they love learning, and we're in an information overload culture where you can get a course on just about anything. But tell me about your course.
Sure. Well, I actually just launched my my investing course, and this is really built off of my my decade as an investment analyst and working for venture capital and private wealth managers. And yeah, I've loved it. It's just that face-to-face feeling you get with a video course, being able to guide somebody through that transformation in a more personal way. Really, it's the next evolution of that self-publishing idea, because really you're just maybe recording some videos and providing some other resources for people through that course. But from an entrepreneur standpoint, it's also an excellent opportunity because, like I said, if you're selling a book, then you get about 70% of that sales price on Amazon. So that might be, $3 or up to $6 or $7 at the most. Well, of course, because you've put this work into it, and before it's a much more personal and detailed idea, you're charging $150, $200. You're getting a much larger cut. You're getting potentially all of it if you're running through your own platform. So $200 per person rather than maybe $5 or $6.
The thing I like about online courses, to your point there, is so you can do it a couple different ways. You can completely do it yourself. That's what we did. And it's on its own site. We own the site. And like you said, it's the profit margins are about 99%. The only thing we really pay for is the payment gateways. They take a small percentage to collect online. Or there's I don't know how to do any of that stuff. That's not my thing. Now there's sites out there where you can actually piggyback your course idea onto someone else's platform. Teachable is the one that comes to mind. And, they take a cut, but it's very much drag and drop, plug and play. So one of the things I always tell people is this: there's no one else like you, right? So kind of going back earlier, Joseph, you're talking about, the personal finance books. There are thousands and thousands of personal finance books. And, the first person might come along and say, well, I'm not going to create a personal finance book. There's already thousands of them. Or there are thousands of manuals on how to fix cars. There are thousands of people making cornhole boards and selling them online. So you're probably thinking, well, I didn't come up with the idea, somebody else is already doing it. Do you realize that there's still not enough of you? And that was one of the big takeaways from me is, yes, there is so much information out there and there's so many people doing really great things online. Why should I start? The point is there's two reasons. One is there's not enough of us to go around to help all those people out there. And two, there's not you. There's not a Chris Peach. There's not a Joseph Hogue. There's not you. So Joseph and I are in a very similar space. And somebody might ask, well, why would you have Joseph come on your podcast? Because aren't you guys competition? That's the difference in the online world is the online world, your market is the world. And so Joseph's not my competition. He's almost like a colleague in a way because he does something and I do something. Yes, they might be similar, but he looks different than me. We talk different. We sound different. We have different ideas. So we're different. The point is there's only one you. And since there's only one you, take your idea and run with it because it's you in that idea, not you blending it with everybody else. Does that make sense?
Sure. And there's a couple of great points there. First is that competition mindset and what I'll call it the scarcity mindset that a lot of people have, that anyone, selling similar products or with a similar blog is your competition. It's that scarcity mindset that really keeps people from being successful. You talked about, we go to that FinCon, Financial Bloggers Conference, every year. And here you have, 1,000+ people all with a financial blog. So it would be with that scarcity mindset, you would say, well, why do I want to get to know these people, promote these people, and talk about these people if my readers or my audience is just going to go to their blog? If you take a larger view, a broader view, if you take the view of, well, yeah, but okay, out of these 1,000 people with a blog, how many millions of people are there in the space that have a similar blog and aren't going to be in that group? If you take a team relationship with these 1,000 people and everybody promotes everybody helps each other out, then how much of an advantage does that give you over those millions of other bloggers? So even if I ran a podcast very similar to yours, if we talked about each other's podcasts, if we promoted each other's podcasts, we used that as an advantage rather than a competition. That's just going to help us so much more against those nameless, countless other podcasters that have that scarcity mindset. So I think that's a great idea to not have that scarcity mindset, to look for other people in your space, help them out, let them help you out, and really create that advantage that comes with numbers.
Absolutely. I mean, you said it perfectly, but if you have a scarcity mindset, expect to remain small. And once you open up that mind and you have that, I call it that radical open-mindedness, where you can start thinking like, okay, I'm going to promote this guy's product, this guy's system, this guy's YouTube channel, even though it's competition to me, it's really not competition. Like you said, if you want to start jumping into the online space, you will realize that all the big people out there in the online space, they're part of these like networks of, 100 other really big time people. And they're always cross-pollinating and promoting each other, even in the exact same niche. When I first started learning about this, I was like, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. It's so voodoo if you look at traditional business, but the online world is not traditional business. So keep that in mind. But I want to move on here and talk about, I'm on your YouTube channel right now. And so before we hit record on this, you were telling me about when you started it. So you're at 23,000 subscribers. When did you start this?
I started my YouTube channel a few years ago and really just used it as a way to host videos that I would put on my blog, kind of summary videos. Never really took the time to use YouTube as its own resource, as its own business. So obviously did nothing for years. Finally, December 25th of last year, 2017, because we, us hard charger entrepreneurs, we work Christmas. So I got serious and I started posting videos and really building that community as its own community on YouTube. And so from 25 subscribers last year to that 23,000 now. So 10 months and 23,000 subscribers. I'm going towards going for 30,000 this year and reaching for that 100,000 next year.
I mean, the cool thing is subscribers don't come unless the content is good, right? So the fact that you have from 25 subscribers to 23,000 in less than a year, definitely go check out his YouTube channel. I have purefinance101.com/free money videos. If you don't have a pencil or paper to write with, don't worry. We're going to put links in the show notes straight to that YouTube channel, but it's really good. I got to say I'm impressed. It's really, really good stuff.
Well, and I think like a lot of things, like a lot of successful businesses, it comes from a passion. That YouTube channel really comes from my passion of talking about personal finance and investing and making money online. So obviously, I think people, they feel that passion and they get my story as their own, really, a lot of times. For people looking to start an online business and that kind of entrepreneur mindset, YouTube is really where it's at. We've got 5G coming out and everybody's going to be looking at videos on their phones. And it's already an amazing space, even without that transformation we have coming. So I would definitely look at least complementing your other online businesses with a YouTube channel, because it's an amazing way to reach people, to build a community that's really going to be your cheerleaders for life once you connect with them through this video.
You see these movements, and I'll kind of wrap up with this, but I remember, looking back, kind of looking at the history of blogs, late 90s, early 2000s, there was this movement where people were taking their ideas and they weren't creating businesses, but they were putting their ideas in blogs and words, and people started reading these blogs. And then, fast forward maybe 7-8 years later, people started putting images on these blogs. And remember, this is kind of like the transition when mobile really started to take off, where we could actually access a web page on mobile and be happy with it. And then you fast forward a little bit more, and people are doing this weird thing where they talk to each other, over an audio file, and they call it a podcast, right? And, then podcasting starts taking off. And now we're kind of transitioning into, and you're seeing video. And so the point is, this is what makes online businesses so amazing, is it never stops moving. It's always fluid. You're never going to get bored. In fact, if you get bored, you are going to become irrelevant. You have to always find out like what's working, what doesn't work. Let's test things. So kudos to you for jumping in the YouTube space. You have an amazing channel, by the way.
Thank you. And I think you brought up two very important points there, that and almost conflicting ideas, really, because if you look at business, how it's always evolving, they said video killed the radio star almost 40 years ago, right, on MTV there. But yet you still have very successful radio shows, podcasts, like your own that are very successful. For years, people have been saying blogging is dead because of the shift towards video and other media. But I think if you still focus on doing what you do well, doing it better, and just being different from everything else out there, then I think you can still be very successful. But the second point is just to not be afraid to evolve along with those shifts. If you're a diehard blogger, don't be afraid. Start putting yourself out there on video and kind of evolve with the shift and really find ways to use that old media with the new to really make a better product for your audience.
Guys, head on over to YouTube. Just search Let's Talk Money. It's with Joseph Hogue, or we'll have links in the show notes. Joseph, thank you so much for coming on the show. You're awesome, and look forward to talking to you soon.
Chris, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
And just like that, we wrap up another amazing episode of the Money Peach podcast. All the show notes, the links, anything that Joseph and I talked about, including the link to his amazing YouTube channel, can be found over at moneypeach.com/session119. That's moneypeach.com/session119. Thank you guys so much for listening, subscribing to the show. Thank you for downloading. We really appreciate it. Have a great week. God bless. And we'll see you next week, same time, same place on the Money Peach podcast.
Boom, da-ba-doom, boom, da-ba-doom.